Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters didn't just go viral. It steamrolled the charts, hitting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for multiple weeks while breaking record after record. An animated group, real history. Today I'll show you how to create a music video inspired by Golden, from consistent characters to lip sync using OpenArt. And this is perfect timing too, because the OpenArt Music Video Awards is now running between October 15th to November 16th. Let's make something award-worthy. Hello good people of OpenArt. In the spirit of the OpenArt Music Video Awards, I thought today we'd go over how to create a music video from scratch. And as you've seen in the intro, this video is inspired by the K-pop Demon Hunters Golden. And yes, at OpenArt, we're big fans of the K-pop Demon Hunters, even me at my tender, mature age. That being said, doing a music video from scratch is quite a bit of work. However, it gives you the most control. So what we're going to cover in today's video is how to create your shot list, developing your characters and creating images for them, and also for B-roll that we're later going to animate using AI video models. And then I'm going to give you some basic tips on how to edit it all together. Now, the first step to creating your music video is to create a shot list or a storyboard. You don't need anything fancy. You can even just use a Word doc. In most cases, I would use Canva, and even if you use the free account, you should be able to access some basic storyboard. So if you head over to Canva and you just type in storyboard, you'll get various kinds here that you can use, and you can pick any one of these. I'm just going to pick this one, and we'll select Customize Template. And you can zoom in and out of the workspace here, and you can even toggle the pages to either hide the thumbnails or show them. Pretty self-explanatory and very basic. Now, based on your song, you want to change this to your title, so on and so forth. I'm just going to go through this really quickly because the method that I'm doing is slightly different. But what you want to do here is perhaps use your lyrics as inspiration. Now, as I zoom in tighter here, you see I've put the first lyric of the song Golden. I'm actually going to just delete these images because we don't have the images yet. And then we see I was a ghost, I was alone, and then whatever she says in Korean. And then the second line, we have given the throne, I didn't know, so on and so forth. So now visually, I could kind of picture what kind of image I want. And the good thing about putting lyrics in there, you can come back later and use these as prompts for your images. In most cases, this is the method that you're going to do to storyboard. Since my video is inspired by the actual Golden music video, and also from the recent live performance on Jimmy Fallon, where the real singers performed the song, I ended up doing something different from a storyboard. Instead, I used my editor as my storyboard. As I scroll through my clips here, you see that I've screen recorded the live performance. And if I toggle this on, I screen recorded the actual music video. And the reason why I did this is because I have a visual advantage of the B-roll shots that I want to imitate. Also use the live performance as inspiration for the lip sync scenes, okay? To give you an idea of what I'm going for, this is the timeline version where I generated all the images and lined them up in a way where I thought was best to add motion to them. So let me play a few seconds for you.
I was a ghost, I was alone. It's okay.
So in a sense, I'm still doing storyboarding, but I'm using the music as inspiration on where I want to put all the images and how the timing should be, all right? For example, I'm just going to turn off the images here, and I've overlaid the original music track over the live performance. And when she starts to sing in the animated version, you see it here, I actually chose not to use that part, but instead have a close-up of Ejae starting off the song. The image I wanted to create was of Ejae singing holding a mic and using lip sync, okay? So that's kind of the methodology behind doing the storyboard on the timeline editor. Again, I want to reiterate, this is only if you're going to imitate an existing song, but if you're purely starting from scratch, you don't have to do this method. Well, having the originals and the live performance as a visual guide was very helpful for me. It was still kind of difficult to make this video, I'm not gonna lie. However, when you're thinking ahead and storyboarding, yes, it takes a bit of effort, but it's gonna help you visualize what you want to see on the screen and what you want to animate. It's also going to help with timing when you generate the videos, and it's going to be super helpful when it comes to lip syncing. In order for us to storyboard properly, obviously we need to make our characters and we want to create our scenes. And personally, I found this the most fun because you're going to discover many ways to figure out how to get the scenes. And full transparency, you're going to burn credits because especially if you're doing this for the first time or you don't exactly know the kind of scene you want, you're going to have to reiterate your images quite a bit, and the same thing with video. So starting off, let's head over to the top menu here, and we're going to simply click on Create Image. Under Model or Character, I'm choosing Nano Banana because it has more of a cinematic look. Seed Dream 4.0 worked just as well. And the reason why I use these two models is because you're going to use the Omni reference quite a bit to keep your characters consistent. So let's start with that. I'm going to create one of the characters. Just know that the concept applies to multiple characters if you have more than one person. In terms of the characters, my goal was to use the real singers in the music video as opposed to the characters. But I also didn't want to create the characters exactly 100%. I wanted them just to have a very similar likeness. The most important thing to start is to get a good portrait image of your character. Whether you're generating it or you're using a reference photo as inspiration, find an image where the likeness of the person is very clear as well as the details. And of course, the outfit is important, so I just search the internet for an outfit that best represents what they were wearing for Golden. And they even had the white versions, towards the end when they're wearing this outfit. So I chose to mix it up to use this for Zoe and Mira. When it comes to creating the character, there's a couple ways we can approach this. The first way is bringing in to the Omni reference the portrait image of your character, and then bringing in the outfit as well. And within the prompt, you see I put place the woman in the outfit from the second reference image, plain gray background. The composition is waist up, or you could even put half body. And then I put omit the white mannequin for a reason. After generating the images, you see that in this image, it looks pretty good, but it's missing the straps here. The next image, it has the straps, but we do see the mannequin's belly here. That's not what we want. And in the third image, we get exactly what we want here. We have the straps, the jacket, the crop top. Everything looks perfect. Here was very close, except that the crop top is too short on the top here. But I'd be very happy with this shot as my main image. The second way we can approach this is using the sprite sheet method. And you can do this in Photoshop, Canva, wherever, where you put the portrait image on one side, the outfit on the other side. I could put more accessories here, her boots and some other things, but I'm just going to keep it super simple. And this will act as one reference image. I used a very similar prompt, except more simpler. Place a woman in the outfit of the reference image, plain gray background, and this is the result that I got. Both methods work very well. It's really up to you in terms of your workflow. But just like the previous method, it's not always going to be perfect. We're missing the straps once again, and we have additional necklaces here. Here we do have the straps, but it's more of a crop top. My advice to you would be to use this method if you have 3 or more objects. It's probably best to create a sprite sheet because with Nano Banana, 3 omni references are good, but if you try 4, it's kind of hit or miss. And to create Rei and Audrey, I basically rinsed and repeat the same process. And once you have their individual reference images, I went back into Canva and set up the images this way so that if I needed a group shot, I can use this as a reference image. So now what we can do with our reference images, I've dumped the one I did for Ejae here. And in the prompt, I have her singing, holding a mic on a concert stage lit with neon lights. The composition is a close-up shot. But now because I may use this as a lip sync scene, I'm going to switch to 16:9. We'll create some images. So if we take a look at some of the images here, you see that we get exactly what we asked for. Now, we didn't be very specific in where her arms are or anything like that, but you could do that, which I'm going to show you a bit later. I really like this image that could be potentially used in the beginning. So this can work well for setting up various scenes. And we can do the same thing if we use the image reference of the group shot. And that's how I came up with this one. Use the reference image with all 3 of them and used a very similar prompt. And here's another example. And you see from the outfits to their faces, it holds the consistency very well. Before we move on to the B-roll scenes, I do want to cover some very specific scenes that you may use for lip syncing. So for example, you see this image here where I really wanted her to have some emotion, her hand up. I don't think I actually used this image, but I used a very similar one. And what I have found was that when I use a reference image of Ejae here, you'll see in my prompt here, I state raise one arm slightly bent over her head. She sings passionately. Sometimes I use passionately, emotionally, or sometimes I'll use both together for them to look like, they're into it, their eyes are closed, they have feeling. With that being said, these are the kind of words that you want to put in your prompt to convey that emotion, to convey that passion. And here's another example where I was very specific on where I wanted her hand to be. In the prompt, it says close-up of the woman singing with passion, holding a mic and with one hand slightly raised near her head. Background is a concert stage with colorful neon lights. And if we take a look at the other one with the same prompt, I could have used this as well. You could even prompt for an open hand. This is the great thing with Nano Banana and Seedream. You can be like a director and state where the arm is, the kind of emotion they're feeling, just with simple instruction. So in terms of creating your characters, there's so many possibilities that you can venture off to just with those reference images that we just created. And before we get into thinking about how we're going to lip sync our characters, let's talk about B-roll. Now, as I mentioned previously, if you're doing the whole storyboard idea, a good way to create B-roll is to use the actual lyrics as inspiration. In my case, because I'm using the official music video as inspiration, all I have to do really is kind of describe the scenes that I'm seeing using a reference image and trying to figure out how do I create this scene with just a prompt. Now, you could do a screenshot and image to image, but I didn't want to do that. Not that it's cheating, but I wanted to kind of figure it out on my own. Let's start with a simple example. This scene is really hilarious, and I wanted to make sure I included it as part of the B-roll. And basically, they're watching the Huntrix perform, and they're crying, and it's 3 men. So what I wanted to do is sort of recreate this, but I also wanted to give it my own twist. The concept is we got 3 guys here crying, watching them on the phone, and they're holding, I guess these are like glow sticks or whatever, kind of in the shape of a clover with an H for Huntrix. In my version, I changed it up slightly. Instead of 3 Korean guys, I westernized it a bit by putting 2 guys of different nationalities. And a little Easter egg here. If you look at their shirts, we have Blackpink, BTS, and aespa, 3 K-pop groups that I personally love to listen to. but I was very happy how this turned out. And if you look at my prompt here, I even spelled photo wrong. It says photo of 3 guys that are K-pop fans of different nationalities watching something on a phone. Now I put something on a phone because if you put like watching a concert or a music video, it's going to show up on the back of the screen. So it's best not to describe what they're watching. And I just mentioned that they're crying, and I specify who's holding the phone. Person in the middle is holding the phone. There's an Apple logo on the back. And for the different K-pop groups, I simply put, they all have shirts with different K-pop groups: BTS, Blackpink, and aespa. 2 of the guys are holding glow sticks. On the handle is a clover shape with an H logo. The environment is a city. I only used the clover shape because that's all I could think of. You can see I can be very descriptive in terms of the details that I want to see. Here's another example of using Rei's reference image. And in the main music video, she's actually holding the album of Sunlight Sisters, which is the group of Rumi's mom, if I could remember correctly. But I decided to give the nod to 21. Those of you that follow K-pop know that they're one of the OGs in the K-pop scene. And once again, the prompt is super simple. Place a woman in a Korean city wearing a yellow sweater, black short skirt. She's holding in both arms a record album that reads 21. The composition is close-up, half-body perspective. When it comes to the other scenes, I'm just describing what I'm seeing, but I'm also giving it a twist. In the dressing room scene, I use both reference images for Rei and Audrey, and my prompt is place the 2 women wearing white in the dressing room, getting their hair and makeup done. The 2 women are sitting side by side, talking and laughing. So it's not like I'm writing this big novel and I'm getting exactly what I envision in my head. Now there's 2 or 3 scenes that were a bit complex to do. This one, let's take a look at it first. You see that how it zooms in to where they're holding a cell phone while watching them, right? Let's watch it again. They're standing on top of an airplane, and then it transitions into someone holding a cell phone. I thought that was really cool. So first, what I ended up doing was prompting for this image where they're standing on top of the airplane. The second image, we have someone holding the cell phone with the image now within the phone. The way I approached this was that I used the Omni reference with all 3 women, and my prompt states, place these women standing on top of an airplane that is in flight in the sky. They all have different poses with attitude. The sun is setting behind them. The composition is close up. Then I use that image as a reference image, and within the prompt I put change the perspective to aerial view. The women are much smaller, make the plane bigger. And the reason why I did that was because the scale was really off. And even if you look at this, they're pretty big for being on top of an airplane, right? And yeah, I could have used Photoshop and shrunk them. I didn't really need to go that extra step, so I kind of just went with it. So now I've created this reference image. And using that image we just looked at, the prompt is place the image on a cell phone screen being held with 2 hands. The composition is close up. The environment is a city, street, sidewalk. Now I am jumping ahead a bit here, but I did want to show you how I put this all together. Let's go ahead and watch the clip. So we have that first image we created, and it's going to transition into the cell phone image there very seamlessly. Now she is a little bit off the airplane there, but again, doesn't really matter. I could keep regenerating if I wanted to. The model I use is Kling 2.1, and what I ended up doing was using start and end frame. The prompt I use is 3 women standing on top of an airplane. The wind blows their hair, then the image zooms out into someone holding a cell phone. So I described exactly what I wanted to happen, and I just took advantage of the start and end frame capabilities. Now, if you don't like Kling 2.1, I believe you can use Seed Dance as well, which works really well. Yep, start and end frame. Hailuo 02 has it. Vidu has it as well. If you need to do sort of those transition type videos, start and end frame is a great method to achieve that. The next scene I want to talk about here is when Rumi's running through the forest, and initially I had the idea to recreate this almost exactly with her running in a side view. However, one of the limitations of AI video models is that if you have a perspective where the person is like showing half their face or even turned around, when that face comes into full view, that face is no longer going to look consistent. My workaround was to have Ejae facing the camera. As she runs towards the camera here, we still keep her consistency. And here's a good example of that, where at least on the side, it sort of looks like Ejae, but you'll see that when she turns around, totally looks different, right? So we've lost her consistency. When you have a full body perspective of a person and you're converting it to video, the tendency is that you're going to lose some consistency. So ideally, as much as possible, half body to close-up shots will be the most consistent, but full body tends to be a little hit and miss, as you see in this example here. Generally, for the rest of your B-roll shots, it's actually pretty simple. Because you have images to work with, in your prompt you don't really have to describe in detail like what the character is wearing. You just have to describe the subject. So in this case, a woman skateboarding towards the camera quickly. She smiles as she zooms past the camera. Now, she didn't zoom past the camera, but I decided to go with it anyway. For this scene, my starting image was exactly what you see here, and as I play this, the prompt is just, the women are driving in a car fast, the woman at the back spreads her arms out and laughs, the two women in the front laugh and they are having fun. So ultimately, again, you're just describing exactly what it is you want to see, whether it's the camera motion or their actions. It was probably one of the easier things to do, is converting the images to B-roll.
I was a ghost, I was alone. 도와준, it's okay. Given the throne, I didn't know how to believe I was the queen that I'm meant to be.
Now, when it comes to lip syncing, I chose to use OpenArt Lip Sync for all my lip syncing clips. Only OpenArt and Hydra give you the opportunity to put in prompts to affect gestures and even camera motions. Hydra can work pretty well in certain scenarios. I find though that the motion is too stiff and it does kind of have that AI look. Omni-Human tends to over-exaggerate the mouth motions, which actually can be a benefit, especially for non-human characters. Creatify is a good in-between, I'd say, between Omni-Human and OpenArt Lip Sync. The gestures could be lacking at times, but I find the mouth movements are very pleasing and natural looking. In terms of cost, Creatify and Omni-Human are the most expensive. Then comes Hydra, and OpenArt Lip Sync is the cheapest one. In terms of output resolution, Omni-Human is at 1440 by 832. Both Hydra and Creatify are 720p, roughly 1280 by 720. And the lowest resolution is OpenArt Lip Sync, 944 by 540. So I guess you could say 540p. So you'd probably have to scale it minimum to 720p or at least 1080p. Now we're going to head back to our storyboard or timeline, depending on what you're doing. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the things we need to determine is that once we have our B-roll and the images that we're going to use for lip sync, we have to find out where it is that we want the lip sync to happen. So in my case, in the beginning of the song, I start off with Ejae singing, and then we switch to some B-roll here. And then after these clips, we come back to Ejae singing once again. So you're going to have to kind of figure this out. Because there are 3 members, I wanted to kind of balance between how much each person is singing, but also show enough of the B-roll to honor the original music video. And the best thing to do is that once you have all your images lined up and you think you have a good arrangement, play it with a song. And I'm going to play mine really lightly here. And one of the things that I'm trying to find out is How does it feel when the clips change from one scene to another? Does it make sense? Is it offbeat? Is it honoring the original, as I said before? So you're going to have to really figure those things out. Let's play a few seconds.
To believe I was the queen that I'm meant to be.
Live two lives, try to play both sides, but I couldn't find my own place.
Had a problem, child, 'cause I got too wild. But now that's how I'm getting paid. Get the tunes, babe. I'm done hiding now.
So I'm pretty happy with all of that. And one of the key things you want to keep in mind is that when there's like a change to a bridge, a chorus, typically the visuals will follow that. So for example, if I play this part into the bridge before the chorus,
Get the tunes, babe. I'm done hiding now. I'm shining like.
so you see that it matches the beat, right? The part where she starts to sing, I'm done hiding, now I'm shining, I want the scene to change in transition. And that's actually a good strategy when you're editing and cutting your footage, that you want to be on the downbeat. In Western music, there's typically 4 beats for bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. On the 1, is usually when you want to make a change or keep it on beat. It feels much better. This part is going to be quite a bit of work, so bear with me. Honestly, I don't know if there's a better way to do this. That being said, if we go to our areas where we're going to have some lip sync, like in the beginning here, if you look at my time code, I'm at about 16 seconds, right? And then all the way up to 21 seconds. For about 5 seconds, we have Ejae lip syncing. Theoretically, you could just do like 30 seconds worth of audio and use that to lip sync. I just find the longer you go with the lip sync models, the more it starts to lose the consistency and things start to turn plastic in terms of visuals, especially if you have like camera movements and stuff. And here's a good example of that. This is OpenArt Lip Sync. It's a 15-second clip, and there's a bit of motion. You see our starting frame looks pretty decent. It looks realistic, but as she starts to sing, I had the camera zoom in, but the closer we get to her, the more her skin starts to look plastic. Even the consistency in her face is going away. And by the end of it here, I'm going to stop this frame. Now we have this over smoothened look and we've lost the consistency. So I would minimize your lip syncs to max 8 seconds. And on average, most of the time, if you're working with A-roll or B-roll, each scene is going to be between 4 to 8 seconds. Sometimes they're even quicker than that. Depending on the editor you're on, what I recommend is you create an in and out point, and in DaVinci Resolve, it's just a matter of clicking on I and O for out. And then I'm going to export this 5-second audio clip to use for my lip sync. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but one of the reasons why I'm doing this is because it'll cost less to do the lip sync, and you can be more accurate with the lip sync clip that you are using because you are starting with an image. With that in mind, I went through my whole timeline and did all these in and out points. Now, I did them by character, so I did all of Ejae's first, all of Rei's, all of Audrey's, and I exported only the audio. So I'm not going to really go in depth on that part. That should be something you know how to do already. But basically, most video editors have a way to export audio only. So in DaVinci Resolve, for example, there's a Deliver tab we have here. And at the very top, there's an option to export the audio only. Whether it's CapCut, Final Cut Pro, whatever you use, there's always a way to export just the audio. Next, you want to come back to OpenArt and open the video section here. In case you don't know, this menu collapses. You just have to click on the hamburger menu here and it opens and closes. You'll find lip sync video here. And in the drop down here is where you can select your model. As I said, I'm going to use OpenArt Lip Sync. We're going to select an image. I'm just going to kind of just go through the motions here with you, but I've already done this. And then you can drag and drop your file here. I'm going to bring in this clip, and it's only like 2 seconds because it's a very specific area where I want there to be a quick lip sync. And what I find works, at least for singing, in the prompt I would typically put in, a woman is singing with passion and emotion. Her body moves with the music. Now you can be more specific. You can actually add camera motion and even different effects. But again, the more you do that, the more fake it's gonna look. So I tend to avoid that. And if I want to do like a slow zoom in or zoom out, I would just upscale the video to 4K and do that in the edit. It's much more effective to do it that way. Now here's the actual image that I use for this clip. And although it's only 2 seconds, I really like her head movement because this line is full of emotion and passion, right? Let's take a quick look. And the actual lip movements are pretty good. This one of Audrey is 8 seconds, and I really liked her head movement, the arm movement, very similar prompt. And you can also see when she takes a breath. So let's take a quick look. Again, I will state though that you want to keep it half body to close up, because when we get to the full body, some weird funky stuff happens. You lose the consistency. You see in some areas here, she's got 2 mics all of a sudden. The facial features aren't accurate and looks like mush. I ended up using this clip just for a few seconds to fill some space, but you're not going to get the best details and quality when you're doing full body. Once your lip sync videos are done, if you're using the other models that are 720p, you may be able to get away with that and most people wouldn't even know, but because I'm using OpenArt Lip Sync, I want to upscale it to at least 1080p. In the video menu, you're going to see video upscale. This is powered by Topaz Labs, and there's a max of 100 megabytes or 20 seconds. I'm going to bring in a clip here from my history. And this one's only 3 seconds, and you can keep frame interpolation to 30 frames per second. We're going to change the resolution to 1080p, and you see it's costing us 100 credits. Now you can go further and take it to 2K, still 100 credits, and 4K, still 100 credits. So previously, as I mentioned, if you want to kind of do a zoom in or zoom out in post-production, you're probably better off upscaling it to 4K anyway. That way you have better quality to work with. All right, so I know we've gone through a lot and you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, this is so much work. It is. When you do this manually and you want full control, this is the only way. That's why we've introduced an OpenArt Story, and it does all of this work for you. Now, it's not perfect, and you might have to edit some things, redo some clips, but one of the big draws about OpenArt Story is that it's taking away all the manual work and doing things automatically for you. But if you do it manually, it's probably going to cost you the same amount or more in some cases. But anyway, I digress. The last thing we need to do now is just line up our video clips with the image clips. Previously, as we looked at, we have the sequence of our images here, and now we just want to line up our video clips in the way we want. I'm going to turn on the top of the timeline where all my video footage is. And I'm not going to go through how I did this. I basically dragged and dropped. For example, this clip's on the 8-second mark and it stops at about 10. So it's only roughly 2 seconds. And this is the part where you're going to really have to determine where you want the lip sync to happen, where you want the B-roll to happen, and you want a good balance of both. But I had to fidget with timing quite a bit, shorten some clips, redo some clips. This is the time you become the music director to develop the story that you had in your head. There's one part in this video that I really wanted to capture, and this is a quick scene where you see Ejae's earring, then her eye sparkles, she steps on the gas pedal, and then we have the three girls cruising in their golden car. I really wanted to capture that, and each video was only 5 seconds, but I'm barely using 1 second each time for this clip. So it happens very quickly before the chorus starts. And when it gets to the up, up, up part, we have Ejae here spreading her arms out, right? Timing. It's all about timing. One tip in terms of post-production that I can give you, because the lip sync naturally has sort of that plastic feel, if I zoom into this shot, you're going to see that there's a bit of grain. And I actually added film grain to these clips because it kind of eases off that plastic feel and makes it look just a bit more realistic. If I switch off the film grain, you're going to see that, yeah, it has almost that hyper-realistic look. I purposely made the music video 1 minute and 30 seconds because the OpenArt Music Video Awards, the max duration you can submit is 1 minute and 20 seconds. Now, mind you, you can go 130, 140, but if you do a 5-minute video, they're only going to judge the first 1 minute and 20 seconds. So you can imagine with all this work just to do 1 minute and 30 seconds of video, I wanted to be very transparent on the process, and yes, it's a lot of work, but I'm super happy with the results. Now, let me know if you want me to finish the complete video. There's probably another minute to do, but for the sake of time with the contest, I really wanted to get this video out to you so that you can see my process and learn from it too. With that being said, enjoy the final video. And if you haven't seen the video I did on using OpenArt Story to create your music video, I encourage you to check that one out too.
I was a ghost, I was alone. It's okay. Given the throne, I didn't know how to believe.